The sky over Guangdong's eastern coast began to change color early on the morning of August 13th. Gray clouds rolled in from the sea, shrouding cities like Shantou, Meizhou, and Huizhou in a threatening shadow. At a small port near Shanwei, an elderly fisherman named Lao Chun scanned the horizon with eyes accustomed to reading natural signs. But that day, he knew this was no ordinary storm. Typhoon Podul, the 11th tropical storm of the year, had crossed Taiwan with destructive force. Winds at the center of the storm reached level 14, and torrential rains lashed the island's eastern region for hours. As Podul moved northwest, Guangdong became its next target. At 2 a.m. on August 14th, Podul made landfall between Xiamen and Shantou. Strong winds tore through trees, toppled billboards, and shattered shop windows in coastal districts. In the city of Meizhou, torrential rains forced the closure of all expressways. The high-speed rail line between Shenzhen and Hangzhou was completely halted. Thousands of passengers were stranded at the station, staring at information screens displaying only one word: delayed. In a small village near Dongjiang, a young mother named Lin Mei held her 5-year-old son's hand. Their house was on a hillside prone to landslides. When the flood warning sirens sounded, they ran to the evacuation center set up by the local government. "I don't know if our house is still standing," she said, staring at the incessant rain. The Guangdong Flood Control Headquarters immediately raised the emergency response status from level 3 to level 2. In Fujian, the typhoon status was raised to level 2 and the flood control to level 4. More than 12,000 residents were evacuated from vulnerable areas, including low-lying areas around the Han River and Dongjiang River. In the Guangzhou Emergency Command Center, large screens displayed satellite images of Podul, slowly but surely rotating. Engineers and officials worked around the clock, coordinating aid, monitoring embankments, and ensuring a stable power supply. However, in some areas, power substations collapsed and communications were cut off. Shenzhen International Airport canceled more than 200 flights. In Guangdong, a major export city, port operations were halted. Large containers were left covered with tarpaulins, waiting for the storm to pass. In Hong Kong, schools, outpatient clinics, and courts were closed. Important hearings, such as the Jimmy Lai case, were canceled due to the highest-level rainstorm warning. On the streets, emergency vehicles drove slowly through floodwaters. Volunteers distributed food and blankets to displaced residents. On social media, the hashtag Podul 2025 trended, with thousands of videos posted of storms, floods, and hope. Analysts from the Economist Intelligence Unit warned that extreme weather events like Podul are no longer rare. Tropical cyclones are now more intense and slower moving. The impacts are not just physical, but also economic and social, their report said. Guangdong, China's manufacturing and export hub, suffered billions of yuan in losses. Factories closed, shipments were delayed, and supply chains were disrupted. Small businesses, such as the owner of an electronics store in Dongjiang, reported losing stock due to the flooding. As Podul finally weakened and moved inland, the skies in Guangdong began to clear, but the scars left by the storm were still felt. At the evacuation center, Lin Mei found her home severely damaged. But she was grateful that her child was safe. "We will rebuild. We have no other choice," she said. The government promised to strengthen early warning systems, repair embankments, and build storm-resistant infrastructure. In schools, children learned about climate change and the importance of preparedness. In villages, residents formed disaster preparedness groups, looking out for each other and sharing information. Typhoon Podul was more than just a meteorological storm. It was a reminder that nature has the power to change everything overnight, but also that humans, with solidarity and resilience, can rise from the ruins. Typhoon Podul was the 11th tropical storm to form in the Western Pacific in 2025, with maximum sustained winds reaching level 14 and extreme rainfall intensity. Podul exhibited the increasingly intense and slow-moving pattern of modern tropical cyclones. After crossing Taiwan, Podul made landfall on the southeastern coast of China, specifically between Xiamen, Fujian, and Shantou, Guangdong, bringing strong winds and heavy rainfall that spread to the Pearl River Delta region. The typhoon forced more than 12,000 residents to evacuate from areas prone to flooding and landslides. Thousands of homes were damaged, roads were cut off, and public services were paralyzed. In cities like Meizhou and Dongjiang, residents faced immediate threats to their safety. Mass evacuations, school closures, and the cancellation of court hearings in Hong Kong reflected the scale of the disruption to daily life. Guangdong, an industrial and export hub, suffered significant losses. Port closures, flight cancellations, and supply chain disruptions impacted the manufacturing, logistics, and trade sectors. The cities of Guangzhou and Dongjiang reported damage to production facilities and loss of inventory. Economic losses were estimated at billions of yuan, demonstrating the vulnerability of the economic system to natural disasters. Local and central governments responded by raising emergency response levels, activating evacuation systems, and deploying rescue teams. However, the event also exposed weaknesses in early warning systems and storm-resistant infrastructure. Commitments to strengthening levees, expanding disaster education, and building long-term mitigation systems became a post-disaster focus. Typhoon Podul symbolized the global trend of climate change, which is driving stronger and slower storms. Experts warned that coastal areas in East Asia, including China, Taiwan, and the Philippines, would increasingly face high-intensity storms. Climate adaptation, sustainable urban planning, and regional collaboration became urgent needs.